and Chief of Retail Touchpoints, and I'm here with Lee Holman, who's a lead retail analyst for IHL Group. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So, thanks for joining us, Lee.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking a little bit about business intelligence and analytics, as well as what's going on with artificial intelligence. So let's kick it off with, can you share your perspective on what's happening with BI and analytics, and based on all of the research studies that you guys do and all the discussions you have with the retail experts in the industry?
Okay. Well, a couple of things first. We just finished a year that had really great retail growth, in terms of sales and so forth. We also dealt with a situation back in the spring and summer that some called the retail apocalypse.
Right, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and we did a study that basically debunked that and called it for what it was.
Right.
The root of that story had to do with data. All right, it had to do with a couple of data points that were taken by some journalists. And they simply ran with it. They didn't dig into it. They didn't look at the context. They simply ran with it. All right, and that's one of the things that we kind of had to deal with in terms of data this past year. Okay, another thing that we're having to deal with in terms of data is what's actually going on in retail right now.
Right.
And that is that there's two big things that retailers are having to struggle with, having to do with their stores. All right. Number one is the fact that the customer experience in the store is very different from the customer experience online. Online, we get treated like kings and queens. In the store, not so much, all right? And data is part of the story there. The other issue that we're dealing with in terms of retailers, things they have to deal with, is the fact that the what we call inventory distortion. Out of stocks and overstocks and so forth. That simply doesn't happen for the most part online. But in the stores, your retail systems, you might have great systems that say your out of stock position is 2.3%, but the experience that the customer has is significantly higher than that. So that's another data-driven issue that retailers are having to deal with currently in retail.
Okay, but bottom line from the retail apocalypse standpoint is that it doesn't exist.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
There might have been lots and lots of stores closed last year, but a whole lot more open.
Right. Pure plays are opening pure play retailers are opening
yes.
stores and
yes, and they continue to do so. So the headline that was in a national paper recently about it being delayed, no. It might be delayed 5 or 6 years, but not right now.
So can we drill down a little bit more, and because you guys are kind of known as research experts and data guys, so can you talk to us, in a little bit more detail about, what are some of the key data points that you're seeing right now?
Okay. One of the tools we use is, we call it Worldview, and basically that takes a 5-year look at IT spend in basically every technology that retailers are using. And in terms of BI and analytics in retail, what we saw last year was about a 10.8% growth in spend for North America, worldwide,
okay.
And then 13.3% increase in North America. Okay, so it's very healthy. A lot of retailers are involved in it in a big way. All right.
So IT spend, investing in new technologies to improve the store experience and the customer.
In terms of BI, just in terms of BI and analytics. Yep.
Okay, wow, excellent. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about artificial intelligence, because we're having a lot of conversations here at NRF about it, in general in the retail industry. What's your perspective on where retail is headed with AI and machine learning?
Okay. The recent study we did indicates that spend by retailers on AI for this coming year is going to be up about 7%. All right, so that's real good news in that area. AI is, we're still in the learning phase for the most part about how it can be properly used, implemented, and so forth in retail. But one of the things that at least from where I sit, that is really compelling for AI is for smaller retailers, or retailers that are looking to grow, because they might not have the capital to put together all the IT systems that they need to do the kind of growth they're looking for, and especially in terms of BI and analytics. They probably can't hire a data scientist.
Right.
But with the help of AI, which is truly an enabling technology in terms of BI and analytics, and especially the use of the cloud. Those retailers can not only analyze the data that they collect, but they can do a real good job of making decisions based upon that data, and hence get the growth they're looking for.
That's fantastic. So it enables smaller retailers to be able to compete with their larger competitors that they might not have been able to do in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. Any predictions on what to expect this year down the road?
Wow. One of the things we talked about this past year was the decided difference in innovation spend that most retailers have in regards to someone like an Amazon. Okay, huge delta there. I mean, a lot of retailers, their IT spend is spent on these technologies and keeping the lights on and hiring these people. And oh, by the way, we've got about $104 to spend on innovation. So AI is one of those technologies that can help innovation spend. If you can make AI do things that you otherwise would have been paying for, then that can help grow your innovation and hence grow your store footprint altogether. There's some other aspects to AI. One of the things in terms of innovation is failing fast. In other words, you've got an idea for a system or solution, and you want to try it out, but you don't want to make a career out of it. So AI is one of those things that can help you predict which of the 4 or 5 selections you might have might be the best one to try out. Okay, so try it out, fail it, make it fail quick, and if take what you learn from that and apply it to the next thing. Another area that's kind of an obvious one: operational efficiencies. I mean, better financial decisions, better energy use, better time to market. All those sorts of things are things that we're going to continue to see advancements over the horizon, and it's going to impact retail in a huge way.
All good news for retailers, large and small, as well as the solution providers who are helping them implement these kinds of technologies. And it's great to hear that innovation is going to be on the forefront because, like you said before, keeping the lights on takes priority, and so it's nice to be able to think that you can move ahead with some of the really cool new ideas that you've been hearing about. So thanks so much for sharing your insights.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Claudia Tarico and we're live at the Retail Touchpoints booth at NRF in New York City. I'm here with Ryan McGinnis. He is the head of marketing at Voices. Hi Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about voice. It's obviously a hot topic right now, but are voice technologies for everyone?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what kind of company you are. I think that we're seeing the faster adoption rates in apparel and furniture and different kinds of retailers that have large product catalogs.
Okay.
So for companies that realize that mobile search, so search and discovery is a big use case we're seeing for voice. For people that realize that the mobile search experience is broken, voice is a really easy way for them to be able to search, refine, filter, do all of those great things that make the mobile experience a lot better with really large product catalogs. So I think we're seeing the earliest adoption from those folks.
Awesome. So, what should retailers know about voice? How should they gauge whether it's right for their business or not?
Yeah, so I say firstly, it's about understanding your consumer, understanding how they shop today, understanding what kinds of things they want to do with your product. I think that understanding about voice is trying to figure out how many resources you can allocate towards it. You should treat it like it's a new product, not a side project for one person to go after. It's very serious. We like to compare it to the advent innovation of mobile devices because it's just a new mode of interacting that a lot of people can have that great experience that mobile devices deliver today. So when it comes to investing in mobile, it's about knowing where your consumers are today, how many of them are using Alexa devices, do they use voice at all in their homes, and do you think that it could benefit greatly their searching experience, interacting with their brand?
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, voice sounds, it's a big topic and it sounds almost difficult. Like, are there any challenges that retailers should know about when implementing voice?
I think it's important to understand the market, and all the vendors are very different. The limitations of certain folks like Alexa and Google Home can only do so much, and then you have folks like Nuance and Watson that are very robust platforms, more professional services and custom work heavy. So it's about understanding what your goals are first, and then seeing which one of those vendors map back to hopefully helping you do that. We're one of those two.
Awesome. So now, you said 2018 is going to be the year when brands need to own the voice experience.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Do you need an Alexa? Do you need Google Home to do all of this?
Yeah, sure. So I think that Amazon get everybody really comfortable using voice and being comfortable talking to something. But the year of voice, meaning that a lot of people are investing in skills and the adoption rate hasn't been there yet. And so brands are trying to figure out, do they invest in another platform, Amazon, which likely is a competitor of theirs, or do they try to work in voice to their native digital properties? And so that means, do I just have voice on my mobile app or my website as opposed to hoping that someone will interact with Nike or Adidas on a Google Home? And it's about trying to figure out what experience you want to craft for your users. In a lot of cases with retail, not a lot of people know what they want when they first get to your site, especially with clothing and different kinds of apparel. So having that screen, that multimodal interface is huge with voice. So when brands own that voice experience themselves, there are aspects of it that might be okay for just an assistant, reordering groceries, everyday items, things like that. But when you're really trying to make sure that users can follow that path of what they're looking for, men's running shoes in size 12, under $200, only in black, that kind of conversational aspect, having that on your own website, you get the data, you understand what people are asking for, that's a lot more impactful for your brand.
Awesome. So you could actually just enable voice into an app or a web experience. Can you do it
Exactly.
in a web experience
Yes.
too?
Yep.
Interesting. So let me see. My next question here is, what kind of information can retailers get? What kind of data can they get from voice about their customers that could eventually, lead to a greater customer experience?
Sure. I think that what people ask for using their voice can be very different than what they type in, because we've been conditioned to type a certain way, whereas if we ask for too many things with too many keywords, it might not return anything.
Right.
So there's a lot of onboarding that needs to happen so that users can understand they can just ask for things like I just did, with just like naturally like they would do in the house or when they were describing something they want for their birthday or whatever it might be. But I think that what's most important for them is to understand what kinds of things people are asking for. What are the intents? Are they all new searches? Are they all take me to my cart? I'm looking to add this to my cart.
Okay.
What sorts of things do people find the greatest utility in voice? And then obviously the things that they ask for can really drive your campaigns as a marketer. If you notice that everybody's looking for men's running shirts or women's dresses or things like that, you can then kind of take that data and then retarget some of those folks that tend to use voice as that first entryway. So there's a lot of different things you can do once you have that data, And like our platform, you get access to all of that data, which is very rare in the voice space right now. A lot of companies are trying to keep that for themselves.
Okay.
But that's really empowering as a brand to have all that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said that voice SEO versus native voice search is kind of a big topic, big debate right now. Can you discuss that a little bit? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So I think that marketers obviously are paying attention to where the attention is of the consumer. And right now, with over 30 million devices in circulation just in the US alone, all the marketers are trying to figure out how do they become top of mind on a device. And Amazon recently came out and said that they're thinking about doing ads. And so a lot of marketers are trying to figure out how do I become that number one product that recommends, if I spill something, I need to wipe it up, that Tide or Bounty or whatever that product is becomes the first one, because we're realizing that in retail, Amazon has the number one mind share, or people go there first to search products as opposed to Google. So there's a lot of value in the platform. But where marketers need to understand the struggle with that is that they don't own that brand experience. That experience is delivered through a device that is not on their properties. So there are a lot of ways that can be beneficial for you in terms of SEO, but the real value is where customers are already shopping today. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people are trying to predict how their customers are going to ask for something on a device that is pretty much only serving 3 or 4 things really well, music, to-dos, reminders, timers, but people are shopping on your websites and mobile apps today. So how do you make that experience when they've already landed on your site that much better with voice, because it serves much more of an immediate utility in that sense, whereas the SEO stuff I think is just smoke and mirrors right now until Amazon actually invests in that.
Got it. So my final question for you would be, what are some, key takeaways around voice, some tips, best practices for retailers, looking to, implement the technology in the future? Yeah,
I think it's really important for them to understand that voice is here to stay. I think that I make the comparison that a lot of retailers think that it was like the Apple Watch, and you invest in an app that you develop for an Apple Watch, and everyone's going to love it because the Apple Watch is just going to explode.
Right.
And this is still very early days of voice, but it's very similar to when the smartphone first came out. 10 years ago, a little over that, when the iPhone came out, the adoption numbers were there, everybody was getting excited, but they weren't quite sure if they wanted to come out with a smart device or their iPhone app or whatever it might be. But I would say that it's really important for them to take it seriously. I think that last year, 1% of retailers were thinking about voice. We did a report with you guys that said about 50% of retailers are thinking about voice this year, which is really important because I think that they understand that's how people are naturally going to interact in the short term. It's not AR, it's not VR, it's not something that you feel is 2027.
Right.
It's something that's 2018 and that people actually prefer to do a lot of their interactions with today. So take it seriously, invest in real resources behind it, treat it like a new product launch or a new feature, and talk to your customers. Ask them if they'll love it. Give them access to beta access, and try to figure out how they want to use voice, because it should be complementary to the things you're doing on other channels.
Awesome. So finally, just to wrap things up, I'd love for you to tell the audience a little bit about Voices and what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So we're Voices. We're a voice AI platform. And really high level, we make it really easy for retailers to spin up their own data voice experiences. So like we talked about on their websites, their mobile apps, ways that consumers are already interacting with their brand today. And it's super easy. They give us their product catalog, their search history. We build a model off of that, make it really intelligent to the things that matter most to them, and actually understand how people want to interact with their brand and search for things that are on their site, not taking a guess like transcription services do and try to figure out what you're asking for. We actually know because we have all of that data about your brand. So we're very brand specific, retail specific, e-commerce, and we're helping those folks do voice really well.
Great, and it's important to know that your customers don't have to have an Amazon device or a Google Home in order to utilize voice and make it worthy for their shopping experience.
Exactly. Yeah, we take the approach of we wanted to make it really easy to democratize voice, to make it so that anybody could have access to it on whatever platform. We're an API-based platform, so whether that's web, mobile, IoT, however you want to implement it, it's not just specific to a piece of hardware or somebody else's brand guidelines they've defined for you. We want to basically give you the keys to the kingdom to figure out how it can best serve your audience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today.
Thanks
everyone for checking this out, and we'll see you soon.